Hello aspirants, welcome back to EduRev. I am Gogula Rajashekar, your teacher for Modern Indian History. We were discussing about a chapter called Advent of Europeans. We have divided it into three sections. In the first section, we discussed about what are the factors that are responsible for their advent into India. In the second section, we discussed about their chronology of advent and their settlements in India. Alright, so this is the third and the last section in which we are going to discuss about what are the internal fights among the Europeans and how East India Company of the British has emerged as the victorious, and what are the factors that made East India Company being the supreme European power in India. Alright, so let us begin. As we have seen, the Portuguese are the first to enter into India. They came in 1498, right, through the sea route. So since they are the first, they did not face any resistance from the other Europeans. So the only resistance they found is from the Arab people, who are actually, the relations with the Arabs who are in the Arab Peninsula with the Indians, it goes back to Indus Valley civilization times, right? So since then we have trade relations with these Arab people, right? So they are the ones who have given the word monsoon, right? Please remember this fact, which is useful in prelims. So because of this Arab trade and the local rulers, the Portuguese had to fight some battles. However, these battles are not significant, not important for UPSC, but just to understand, I am providing him here. They are Battle of Kannanur and Battle of Dayu. So these are the battles fought with the local rulers of Gujarat and Kerala, that is the Malabar coast. So they are the naval battles, they are the sea battles. So in order to establish their presence on the coastal region, right? Their rivalry with the other Europeans, it is a very short spanned one, because the Portuguese were not interested in their expansion because they were happy with the trade, and they were confined to very handful of locations in the western coast. So because of these reasons, there was no rivalry, right? However, because of these confined locations, for example Daman Dayu, then Goa, and some locations in Bombay like Elephanta Caves, so post independence what we did is, with the invasion of the Indian army, we have consolidated them into independent India and part of Indian Union. So with that, the presence of Portuguese completely vanished from India. So that is the story with the Portuguese. Now let us see the next one, which is the Dutch. So Dutch has entered into India in 1605. Please recall from the second lecture, right? So since by then the western coast is occupied by the Portuguese, in order to avoid any conflict, what they did is they settled in the eastern coast, particularly in the Yanam and Machilipatnam region and Pulicat Karakkal region, right? However, in 1608, the Britishers also entered, who have the same interests in the eastern coast. So there was a rivalry with the British. So the fights between Dutch and British started. However, this rivalry is also very short spanned one, because the Dutch were not interested in their expansion. They were interested purely in the trade, and they wanted a peaceful relations with the Britishers. So in 1623, what they made is, they made an agreement, a kind of truce, where the Dutch will vacate all the eastern coastal locations of India and they move to this Indonesia. See, some of the locations were colonized by the Britishers and Dutch in Indonesia. So the Dutch will completely vacate India and move to Indonesia, and the British will completely vacate and move to India. So this is the truce they made it. So with this agreement, the Dutch has vacated the eastern coast and has gone to Indonesia. So this ends the rivalry with the British. Alright, so already there is no rivalry with the Portuguese, because they were completely located in a separate coast. Alright, now the third and most important of this chapter is the rivalry between the British and the French. See, British came in 1608 and the French came after 60 years in 1668. Please recall from the second lecture. So by then British were already well established in India. However, the French So they wanted to have the same interest, right? The conflict of interest were there. That is the word, conflict of interest, because of same interest in the trade monopoly and political authority. As a result, the French and British fought for almost 20 years. In this span of 20 years, they fought 3 epic battles which are known by Carnatic Wars. Please remember the name, Carnatic Wars. The first war was fought in 1746 to 48, then second one is 1749 to 54. So these are not so important, however we are going to discuss them later. The third one is very important, because this is the one which has completely vanished the presence of the French in India. So this we are going to discuss the factors, the course of the battle and the impacts of the battle, everything in a timeline when we are going to discuss the complete chapter, right? So in a timeline when we are going to see, we are at right now we are in the background study of the modern Indian history, and we are preferably discussing from 15th century till 17th century. So these things come in the mid 1750s, right? So when we move to this period, I'm going to discuss these Carnatic Wars, right? And as a result of this, the French has lost its significance and its position in India, and East India Company has become superior European power in the India, right? So with this, the political goals of the East India Company are set in motion, right? So this is the entire story of the rivalry of Europeans and fights among them. Now the East India Company has become a superior one. So what are the factors that has led this East India Company to become a superior power? Let us discuss. The first factor is superior technology. See, during those times the industrial revolution was going on, and as a result there was lot of technological innovations. So as a result they had good communication systems and superior weapons, both of them highly strategic. So they are very much helpful in wars, in battles. So that is first reason. Second is they had unconditional support from the home, like the British Parliament and the British Crown. They were actively supporting the East India Company, even though East India Company is a private body. Please remember this fact, private body, but still the British Parliament is helping it with the finance, that is it is supporting financially resources spending on the East India Company. At the same time, please recall this 1600, the ruler Queen Elizabeth has given a exclusive right to this East India Company in order to trade with the eastern locations, which we discussed in the second video, right? So as a result of this support, East India Company is now able to fight long battles, whereas this support is lacking to the French. As a result, the French could not fight long battles. So this is second reason. Then the third is abled leadership. See, the leaders such as Robert Clive, Hector Munro, these guys, they helped, and their strategic involvement. So we'll see their role in Battle of Buxar and Battle of Plassey. So there you can understand what is the role played by Robert Clive and Hector Munro here. So because of their able leadership also, they were able to win these battles quickly. So such wins we call it as decisive victories, right? So by taking the strategic moves, right? And the next important fact is the strong navy. See, all these are fights fought on the coastal regions. So in order to have strong coastal presence, you must have a strong fleet of warships. So as a result of this strong navy, the East India Company is able to fight back better, and the French has ultimately lost it. Apart from this, the East India Company, the British had more number of colonies. As a result, it is able to get more resources, so it can fight for longer period. At the same time, because of the imperialism which is working for the glory of the mother nation, please recall from the first lecture. So there the private individuals are also financing the East India Company and the battles. fought by this East India Company. As a result of all these factors, the East India Company has emerged superior power in the India, and finally it established its ruling over India and ruled us for over 200 years. So this is the entire story, guys. If you have any doubts, do comment. We will get back to you. And thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video with a separate chapter. All right. Bye.